So no one told you life was gonna be this way. Your job's a joke, you're broke, your love life's DOA. It's like you're always stuck in second gear. Or when it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your year, yeah. You thought we were just singing to a sitcom theme song, right? You were having the time of your life, clapping your hands. No one has told you that in the near future, you're going to see things you have never seen before. Okay, let me stop with all this. Welcome to another episode of the In All Honesty podcast. My fabulous name is Oliver Rao, and today we are asking, what are things you understand better now that you're an adult? And this, I will remind you that I do put out prompts for my episode on Thursdays on my social media. That is at Olive Orao, and you can find discussions in the comments and just be able to contribute to the next podcast if you have something relatable. And with that said, I also need to remind you that there is partnership opportunities on this podcast. If you want product placement on YouTube, here you are. On YouTube and every other streaming platform, you can have advertisements, you can sponsor an episode or a season, or you can have a mention on whatever episode you want. I'll be more than happy to partner with you, but let's get into what could be one of the most juiciest episodes so far, because people didn't know adulting is like this. And we all agree. When I started this, when I was going through the responses, we all agree that adulting is a scam, the greatest scam to have ever existed, okay? That we all agree. Okay, let's get to the responses. I asked you, are there things that you understand better now as an adult? And someone said, enyewe hawakwa wachoyo, hii pesa hakuna cha ukweli. Our parents were not mean. Really, there is no money to give. There's no money to dish around. They were not mean people. You understand now? You get it? You get it? A lot of it was, a lot of the responses were quite similar. So maybe some will just go through and you'll understand why I'm saying this. Someone else says, our parents' choices, that is financial. For me, morality-wise, just stuff we took for granted. Yes, the crisis of morality that you will always be in. And I remember, my biggest cringe is always shaming, girls who didn't have their own money or girls who dated sugar daddies. I think of that time and I just honestly cringe. I should have known better, but I didn't know better, because where was I supposed to learn this other unconventional way of life if I had been taught this one? But the greater thing is that now I acknowledge and I'm a better person. Someone else says, my mom. Oh my goodness. This is so short, but it hits so deep. As a woman now, as a grown-up, I understand my mother in levels I cannot even. And I've had a lot of people who say they really fought with their mothers when they were young. They didn't get along with their mothers at all. And now their moms are their best friends. And that's mostly for women. I think I've heard of that from women mostly. The instances of men whose stories I've heard about their mother, they really loved their mothers growing up. They were their mother's best friends. And now they're just not. They cannot see eye to eye. I don't know what the difference is. That probably could be an episode on its own. Someone else says assertiveness. I don't know what you mean by this. I don't know what context we'd put to assertiveness, but I just related it to my own experiences. And I was like, growing up, I used to think my mom is embarrassing. She wouldn't be scared to ask for things and she wouldn't be scared to speak out her mind. And now I realize that the people who get the things that they want are people who speak out and people who ask questions without feeling embarrassed. So even the running joke that we have in Africa about our moms, you go and buy something worth 2,000 and they state, I have 200. Take it or leave it. They are, embarrassment is not their portion. Someone else says, I'm not living alone, but enyewe, the kuna food nyumbani is real. you're still living with your parents, I guess. You're not living alone, but there's food at home. There's food at home. And even the next one says that there's food at home. That's literally the only statement they sent in. There's literally food at home. You don't need to be out here buying potatoes when we can buy a whole sack of potatoes at the same price as buying ready-made potatoes at a restaurant. Go make it at home. Someone else says kukosa hata sigisti and you've been paid. Lol. Mbona yule aunt fulani ako single na ni mzee. So these are two things. You don't even have 60 shillings in your pocket, yet you've just been paid. And also that auntie who's been single their whole lives and now they're old, you do understand now. You get why. You really get why. I personally don't have relatives who are single. I think the first generation of like single people in their 30s is me and my cousins, or rather, like we've not seen that before. So, but there was some unconventional relatives. There were like, say, women who have like, say, aunties who have one child, or aunties who broke up with their husbands, are not together with their husbands, they got divorced. That's a whole other, that's like politics on its own. But this one, I understand. I really understand the women who just stayed single, the widows who did not rush to get married after their husbands died. It all just starts to make sense. And of course, not having money when you've just been paid. I mean, who does not relate, please? Can someone who does not relate to this tell me? Someone else says that being a child was so much better. Oh yeah, everything was being provided. But I feel like there's levels of childhood. If I were to go back to childhood, I'd want to go back to like the toddler, like below 3 years. When I was getting fed, I was sleeping, I was just having a good time. Childhood, after that, some responsibilities started coming on. I only go back to childhood unless I was really, really a toddler. But I get what you're saying. Everything else was provided for you. You really didn't have to go and look for everything yourself. You didn't have to go to look for everything yourself. Someone else says, the sina hata mia fris. You know how someone used to say, I don't even have 50 shillings on me. And you're like, 50 of all the, like, you don't have 50. Why would you lie like that? You don't have 50 at home. And now you realize, yes, not having a single shilling on you is quite possible. And I keep referring this to my experience of moving to the city. When I moved to the city, I was singing in this choir. I think it's a well-known Redforth choir by Filatuju. I was part of that choir, and we used to have rehearsals in town. And the transport money, bus fare from my home to town, like that's just one way, was 30 shillings. And let me tell you, I couldn't get 30 shillings to go for practice. I could not sum up 10 shillings 3 times to take bus fare and go to choir practice. And that's just going. Coming back, I couldn't muster 60 shillings. So yeah, it does make sense. Right now, when someone says, I literally have no penny on me, it's true. They could possibly not have a single shilling on them. Someone says, I should be kind, but I owe no one anything. But I owe no one nothing. Yes, extend kindness, extend grace, extend empathy, but none of these are obligations. None of these things are anyone else's right. I will come to you. I'll be warm. I'll be nice. Just as I am, I'm expected to be human, and that's what we extend to other humans. But outside, I don't owe it to you. I think that's a very strong lesson. And no one owes you anything as well. Like, you can't be out here wondering why haven't people come through for you. No one owes you anything as well. Someone else says, saving is very important. Yes, I guess as an adult now you get it. But I think there's that like levels to it. I was very good at saving. I've always been very good with money from the time I was a child. But right now, the latest lesson I learned from Ivy Africa, formerly, what was her name? Just Ivy. Yeah, formerly Just Ivy, now Ivy Africa. She said, don't save blindly, save towards a goal. And I realized it was very possible. When I was saving towards my car, everything was geared towards, every penny I calculated was geared towards this thing that I'm going to buy. And I realized it's the same thing with everything in my house. When I knew in June I'm supposed to buy a 6-seater couch and it costs 35 shillings, everything leading to that month in June, every single penny that went through my bank account, went through my M-Pesa, was geared towards buying that thing. So it is very, very key to have a goal you're saving towards. Never save blindly, because otherwise, if something came up, you can easily take that money and use it for something else. And it might not even be something that that was an emergency. You might end up just squandering it. So yeah, that's a lesson I've learned as an adult, but saving is very, very important. Whether for emergency, whether for a rainy day, just save. Save, please. Have a goal as well. Someone else says, I should have stayed a baby. Adulting is the ghetto. Oh yeah, you agree with the person before. We all should have stayed kids. When they told you, eat so that you can be big, you shouldn't have trusted them. You shouldn't have trusted people who tell you to go pick a shoe, they're waiting for you, and then you come back and you find them gone. Should we have trusted them? Someone else says, you can't think you have it all together. You can think you have it all together, but at the same time, you don't. Adulting is a scam. We all agree adulting is a scam. That's probably the name of this episode. Adulting is seriously a scam. You think you have it all together? No, you don't. Our parents thought they had it all together. Wait until we grew and you realized all your children have some sort of mental disorder due to some traumas. You will never have it all figured out. But here's the thing. Make sure you appreciate the milestones. Make sure you take time to just be, to give yourself grace, extend yourself grace, pat yourself on the back for the good ones. Do not kill yourself or beat up yourself too hard for the bad ones. Always remember gratitude. Always remember gratitude. There are times you will think you have it all. Always remember gratitude, and don't be soaked up in the moment of wanting something to go so well that you forget to celebrate the actual good ones that you have right now. You know how things could be going really well. You've gotten a good job. People at home are happy. You are healthy. And you just keep thinking, I'm in such a good place and I'm from such a bad place, and that place might recur. And so you work so hard, like you're stressed throughout. You don't even have time to enjoy this very moment you're in where everything is working out. You're just constantly worried and anxious about what is yet to come, and it might not be positive. So be very keen to celebrate your wins in this moment, even as you regret a few decisions here and you think about the future. Someone else says, everyone is just human, regardless of age, title, status, and relationship. That is true. And I think this has to be, we have to keep reminding people this, and you'll be reminded of this a lot when you're interacting with celebrities. Sometimes people feel like celebrities owe them a certain level of invasion of privacy. Or when you're talking to, have you ever met these people who we think are movers and shakers, and you don't realize they too experience imposter syndrome? They too sit in places and are like, oh my goodness, will I even match up? Will I even fill this shoe? Everyone is human. Before we are anything, before you're a mother, before you are a father, before you are a teacher, before you're anything else, you're first human. And this is something that will really help you interacting with humans in the future, so that also you don't glorify people to the point that they can manipulate you, and you also don't look down upon people. It's a very good equalizer. Someone else says, the cost of food and how ridiculous it is. Honestly, food is ridiculous. I thought food should be like it's needed for human sustenance. why is the price tag looking like that? Yes, the cost of food is ridiculous. And for someone like me, I honestly don't understand why restaurant foods are charged like that. Can we all just adapt, making good profit and not trying to rip everyone off? Someone else said, unaweza kosa hata 10 bob. Yes, we've talked about this. I could not muster 30 shillings to go to town. It's very possible. And these are things we didn't understand as children. You're just like, can I just have the 10 bob? And now you start understanding. Of course, it's mixed up with some frustrations and some probably mental instability in that moment. You used to see these stories on news where a parent has burnt their child's fingers or they've burnt their child's hands because their child took 10 shillings from their house or they took 20 shillings from their house. And you thought that is so drastic. But in that moment, with that person having gone through everything they've gone through, they're just mad. Like their sanity is not with them in that moment. I'm not justifying what they're doing. I'm just trying to make you understand. Sometimes when we were growing up, we thought 10 shillings is just 10 shillings. No, it's not. It's money. To come by it is honestly a privilege at some point. So these are things we didn't understand earlier. Now it makes sense. Someone else says that one or no child is enough. Juwe, being a single mom, all bills na school fees. There was, I think in the African societies, we emphasized on having multiple children. So if someone didn't have children, they were shamed. If you had one child, you were shamed. If you had 2 children, you're at the verge of being shamed. You're supposed to have like way more children. But right now you're just thinking, and even women literally want more children. There's men who want more children. But I'm seeing a lot of parents now just like trying to weigh the economy and their situation and seeing, can we add a child? But genuinely in your heart, you do desire another child, but you have to weigh that financial burden that's going to come with it. So yes, we didn't understand that earlier. We didn't understand how, I'm guessing our parents, they held on to some traditions a bit more strongly than they held on to logic. And so they had way more children than they could take care of. And now you start realizing that having one child is okay. Even if that child is spoiled, because there was always the reasoning that you'll spoil your child if they're alone. What if they get spoiled? Isn't that something nice? Even you, if you were to be spoiled, so you'd be happy. And having no children, I'm seeing more people embracing having more children, but it's still something that you will still meet a few people who will shame you for it, or will try to make you feel guilty for it. But we're headed there. At least now I'm seeing more women even out speaking that I don't want children. Oh, I've even had a couple of men say that. So I'm glad that we're evolving. It takes years for a certain mentality to change. So patience is key. Someone else says, it is easier to judge other people's mistakes rather than checking and correcting yours. Oh, yes, the speck in another's eyes and the load in yours. Yes. And let me tell you, I've struggled with this so much. And I think because I've always been in a position of responsibility. And in most cases in a lot of cases, I've been right. So I think in moments when I'm wrong, it's really difficult for me to accept that, because a lot of times I'm right. Almost all the time I'm quite right. So yeah, I can understand how just checking, always like pointing out how other people are wrong is difficult to also check yourself and just realize, oh, wait a minute. And let me tell you, hasn't religion emphasized this for us? If you go to I can speak for the church people. I don't know about Islam and other religions. For us Christians, this is such a huge thing. Like, I think this is an entire topic on its own, where we've always thought of sins that were bigger than ours. We've always thought of something else as a bigger sin. Like, you could be seated sinning here, but you look at another person sinning and you're just like, that one of theirs is too much. So yeah, we realize now it's very difficult to check yourself, but the acknowledgement of, even you are flawed and should check yourself, I think that's a good start. And I would be happy if all of us would do that. Someone else says, patience is important. It will keep you from a lot of stress. This I can attest to. And a lot of times your parents would tell you you'd want something, and you'd be told, wait, we have to do this and this. There's a process to it. But then you realize now that you've been conned, now that you've tried shortcuts and they've not worked, you realize, okay, take your time, be patient, it will come to you. Otherwise, you're going to get conned. Otherwise, you're going to get stolen from. Otherwise, you're not going to have the time to analyze particular details that you should have and dodged the bullet as you should have. Patience is key in everything in life. Take your time. Someone else says, and we all know, if something is too urgent and it's not a matter of life and death, it's probably a con. Go back to our episode, probably 2-3 episodes before this. Yeah, you'll realize that the first sign of you're probably getting conned is how urgent that person needs that thing. Someone else says, being broke for days after payday. Being broke 4 days, sorry, not 4 days. 4 days after payday, there's food at home. Those are two things again. Yes, you can be paid yesterday and be broke today. In fact, you can be broke before you're paid. There is more month than money to your days. Anyway, there's food at home. We all agree. Sometimes there's just food at home. Although I know I and my guilty pleasures, everything I do to get money is so that I can afford not to cook. If I can buy that food from someone, if I can get someone to cook for me, is all I work for. Every day I wake up is all I work for. Someone else says, Sina Pesa was not a facade to Nyima me cash. Yes. When someone told you, I don't have money, no, they were not being mean. They genuinely could have not had money. And we also need to understand when I say I don't have money, it does not necessarily mean that I have no money at all. It could also mean I have money, but it's not for this particular thing. Like I told you when I briefed you on the trip I went in January, everything, like there are times I didn't even have food in the house, but I can't touch my trip money. This money has been set for this trip on this day. And I know messing up this messes up like 5 other people. So sometimes money is tied up to something. It does not necessarily mean that when there's money, it is actually disposable. Someone else said that unaweza kosa mia. This mia thing, it's actually something in Kenya. When someone says, when you ask someone for something, or when you ask someone to buy something and they tell you, I don't even have 100 shillings. It's a very common Kenyan phrase. Probably you've heard it from a lot of your parents if you're Kenyan. So that's what people are referring to now. Now you do understand. Someone else says, weather for 2 is a scam. I can't be cold and someone is tugging on my blanket. I have said this before. Baby making weather, it honestly is a scam to me. When it rains, I feel very cozy and comfortable in my home, and I just want to get blankets and beverages, and probably if I could get a place that I could light up a fire and eat warm food and just chill and listen to good instrumental music and read a book. Let me tell you, that's the vibe I'm going for in this weather. But to think that, first of all, I want to strip my clothes. It's cold. So I want to strip at the same time, be covered by my blanket. And then I'm going to sleep and I feel someone is tugging me on this other side and I can feel a whiff of cold air from a particular place on my body. I'm just like, no. Can we just have reserve sex for summer? No, I agree with you. It is really the biggest scam of all time. But for other people, they actually do. Like, they actually get heat from other people. Not me. Just leave me the hell alone. Yeah. Someone else says that you can have money and really not have money. That's the thing. I said you could be broke before you get paid. You're supposed to get paid on the 28th. By the 5th of that entire money is budgeted for. You're actually looking for extra money before this money is paid out. So yeah, it's quite possible. Getting a salary doesn't mean you have money. Salary is especially the worst. Because salary tricks your brain into thinking you have consistent money. But in real sense, you're planning with money that you don't have because you work first before you get paid, right? And salaries are great, especially with building a career, setting yourself up in a certain sphere, magnificent. But you have to be very careful when it comes to salaries because you might get addicted to the cycle and you might realize you might not necessarily plan ahead. You might not necessarily plan for the future because your head is tricked into thinking there's money coming at the end of the month. There's money coming at the end of the month. And so you might find yourself a bit, just a bit laid back on especially things that you'd want to achieve in life. So yeah, salaries, we now know, we know better. That you can be working and still don't have money. Same thing. That's another person who said it. That one said salary, that you can be working. Yes. Honestly, and the culture we have in Kenya about not paying interns, paying people very horrible rates for jobs and thinking because you're desperate, I can pay you anything. This is such a horrible culture. If you can, please break it. If you go to a place where they want to offer you a job with that mentality, please call them out. Let us undo these cultures that are not working for us. Someone else says that still waiting to feel like an adult at 22. But you're not. I'm 30 and I'm still not an adult. You never get there, if I could say so myself. You will never be an adult. You'll feel like you're insufficiently an adult for a very long time. A very, very long time. Because adulthood is a scam. It literally does not exist. There's nothing like, now I'm in the space where I know what I want. I know what I'm doing. I know. No, that thing does not exist. When people say adulting is a scam, it's because it's literally, adulting does not exist. You will continue to question things. You will continue to learn things for as long as you live. And someone else says that it's actually possible not to have 100 shillings. Again, 100 shillings statement. I used to think my parents were lying. Now you know. Someone else says, bills, baby, bills. Oh my goodness, bills hurt so much. And I usually tell people, my worst thing about existence right now is rent. If I had a place to lay my head at night, I literally would be lazier than I am right now. Like bills. Someone else saying turning off the lights because electricity bill. My dad would turn off the lights everywhere. Like he'd go, even after you've come from rooms, he'd go around just turning off lights. I personally would turn off lights because that's what I was taught. I was a very good child to raise. That's a whole other podcast topic. I was a very easy child to raise. So I was told I did. So you literally just switch off the lights. And it was because of the electricity bills. And bulbs were not like the ones we have right now. And right now, even in my house, like literally, I'm recording in my bedroom and there is no light in the living room, kitchen, bathroom. I don't have light on anywhere else. And it just became a culture. I don't know if that is saving me any electricity, but I just know I think it was instilled in us because they needed to save money for electricity. And let me tell you, postpaid KPLC bills, ridiculous. If you're running an entire family, and right now I'm thinking we have more machines. If you have a washing machine and you have a family, you have instant showers, you have hot water kettles. I do not know how much money you guys are paying for electricity bills. I do not know. I don't think I want to know. Someone else says, paying for convenience. I saw my relatives enjoy struggle lifestyle. One of my cousins did not, and now I get her. Oh my goodness, the way people who did not want to work or struggle were shamed, the way it was not acceptable for you to have something if it came easy. Are we ready for this podcast episode? Are we ready? And let me tell you right now, I know I will pay for anything that will make my life easier. Anything. If there's a washing machine, if there's a shoe washer, if there's a mop that can mop the house while I'm seated, if there's a robot that can do all the work, if you can get a chef to cook for you, if you can get anything that will get the work off me, I'm going to buy it. And honestly, paying for convenience is something that I aspire. Like in my life, I just aspire paying for convenience. And some of the things that I've mentioned before are things like, you see how sometimes I want to go on a vacay, and going to Mombasa is really easy. But usually, the convenience, I am willing to wait a little longer. If I was to go to Mombasa in a month, I'm willing to wait for 3 months so that I have enough money for a flight and get there in 40 minutes, rather than go to Mombasa in a month and get there in 7 hours. Yeah, no. I'm going to try and get money to pay for convenience. And it's okay not to struggle. It's okay for things to come easy to you. I know we have a struggle mentality in Africa. Please try and decolonize your mind. A lot of our cultures and traditions right now are based on colonialism. We were doing a lot of things for the white person. Please decolonize your mind. Allow yourself to also be baby girl, okay? I loved this. I really loved this. Someone else says, I don't have money, yet it's end month. Oh, welcome to the club. How long did you think it would take before? Welcome very much. Some other a bit longer responses that I got. This is something you learned. I will remind you, the prompt was something you understand now. Clearly, you now do get it, but you didn't earlier. And now you get it because you're an adult. Huh? This person said, men will do anything to use you for their own selfish gains. Be patient like a man. Think like a man and act like a lady. So I guess she's talking to women. Move these streets like a man. Men are demons roaming on earth. I know that verse from the Bible. The devil is scouring the world, the earth, to find souls to devour. I think it sounds like that. Yeah. Anyway, she finishes with adulting is T for tough. Children are expensive. Love is a scam. Depression is real. Who has hurt you? Who has really hurt you? The depression is real let's that is a discussion. We didn't even realize our parents were going through depression. They might have been fighting and going through particular mental situations that were draining them, and we just didn't have enough information about mental health at the time. So yes, love is a scam. I don't know about this. I'm a lover of love. I'm always out here watching rom-coms. I don't know whether it's a scam. I want to believe that love is a beautiful thing that still exists. But guys, love doesn't happen for everyone, especially romantic love. Yeah. Children are expensive. This is common knowledge. Oh my goodness. The minute you find out you're pregnant, start looking for millions. I don't know. Go laundromat or something. Children don't come with their own plates. Tell Sauti Soul to stop lying. Adulting is tough. Yes, men will do anything to use you for their own selfish gains. Am I willing to get into this, or am I willing to wait until I host a panel of ladies who can talk about this and then host a panel of men who can then tell us what they think? Someone else says, those old unmarried aunties and uncles I saw when I was a child and thought they were odd were perfectly okay. So those old unmarried aunties and uncles I saw when I was a child and thought they were odd were perfectly okay. I am them now. Old and unmarried, and as an adult, I know it is life. It happens. So then again, this comes up. There were people who we saw and we used to think, okay, not in my family, but we used to think we'd see a girl who's like in her 30s and we're just like, hey, why isn't she married? What has she done? And there was even this, there's this belief that went around that's not an easy girl. That's not a woman who can keep a man. Like gosh, the things we believed. We are grateful for redemption. But yes, the uncles and aunties that were single, they're the ones who cracked the code. They knew. Someone else says, future Mama Olive here. Hi. It's so hard maintaining relationships and surviving at the same time. Who would have known that it takes a lot of emotional energy and time to just focus on love? And the aftermath too. More energy used to survive the heartbreaks. Shukisha, please. Yes. When people are painting the picture of love or the picture of marriage, people don't paint the hard parts of it. It's only now that people are starting to speak openly and telling you it's not easy. And I keep telling people relationships romantic relationships are even harder for me because it takes work. And I am lazy. And anything that demands my energy is something that will get second priority in my life. It takes a lot of energy to just maintain a relationship, any sort of relationship, whether it's with your family, your friends, romantic. And then the amount of energy, she says, goes into things like heartbreak. The time it takes for you to just heal, the energy, it's so much. But we didn't realize this, especially someone like me who grew up in a family where I saw my mom and my dad have been together for 40 years and they're like the best couple ever. And me, I just thought when I grow up, I'll get someone like my dad and we'll live happily ever after because love is a beautiful thing. It's only now that you start dating and you realize my mother must have made so many compromises to be with my father. My father must have made so many compromises to be with my mother. And to think that they're actually two different people, even like the polarities are crazy. I think, well, I've never got them to do the personality test, but I think my dad is an introvert and I think my mom is an extrovert. And I'm just thinking the amount of energy that has gone into this relationship and for them to sort out anything that they had to sort out so that their kids didn't even get sucked up into whatever arguments or fights that they might have had. I think, man, I can't even begin to can. It must have been too much. Someone else says, when my mom used to say, wewe lala kabisa, siku utaanza kuamshwa na shida zako utajua usingizi si chakula. Hey, let me tell you, Maina, shida zangu have now caught up with me and where adulting is just the ghetto. So, your mom used to tell you, you will not eat sleep. Continue sleeping. There's a day your problems are the ones that will wake you up. You don't need an alarm clock. And now you're just like, by 6 I'm up. I'm just looking for. By 6, you literally don't need to set an alarm clock. Whatever it is you're thinking about will wake you up. Well, isn't it life? Isn't it life? What are we supposed to do? This is us a little longer, but I hope you bear with me. Someone else says, well, let's just say I get why people work but never seem to be getting any richer. This adulting-ish is the ghetto. Ebu tell me, mtu anafaa kusurvive aje na hii economy ya Ruto bila job or steady source of income? As I'm writing this, I quit my job a week ago because it was emotionally draining and it ended up affecting me physically. Mpaka I would get muscle pulls in my toes, my pelvis, and would get stiff and chronic back pain na headaches. I was constantly sad, I'm a kids soccer coach and fitness trainer, so you know having low energy doesn't help. I have social anxiety too, and let me tell you, having a boss who gaslights you is just hell. So it got to a point I couldn't take it anymore, and so I was like, fuck it, and I quit. Lakini the bills to be paid in this Zakayo Mtoza Ushuru's government, where I was paid my salary on 4th, and I'm typing this, let's say, I'm a few thousand shillings away from poverty. I am happy that I quit. Hell yeah, but I am scared as fuck too because I recently moved out from home and I'd rather die than go back home. Wow. Anyways, your podcast keeps me going and I'm trying to get some gigs online as I figure out the next step because where I am just too emotionally drained to get back to my work. But bills have to be paid. Also, give tips on what else I can do to stay afloat. Thanks. I know this situation way too familiar for me. You have to survive somehow, but somehow the world has no use for you if you are dead. So if your job literally is taking a toll on you mentally and physically, let it go. That's if you want to stay alive. If you really enjoy, probably you have a struggle kink, go ahead. But I'm very proud of you for actually quitting your job. There's a time to call it enough because you're dealing with first a toxic boss. You're dealing with a very strenuous environment as a job. You have to work with a lot of invasion because, as you say, you are socially anxious. So there's a lot this job is taking from you and you're just not getting enough. What for? Money, just to pay bills. And you also just left home and you don't want to go back home. That I also understand so well. The peace that you have when you have your own place, sometimes it's really worth just working hard to keep it. I really do not know what you can go into. Try your hands on everything. What I usually tell people that helped me keep afloat was that I didn't choose. At the time, I was a beggar. I didn't choose. Yes, I'm a trainer, but if a writing gig comes through, I train myself to write and write. I've never designed anything before, but if someone tells me, can you design this? I'll give you a couple of thousand shillings. I'm going to go into Canva and find a way how to do it. Like I didn't choose anything and I was very willing to take up anything, even if it wasn't in my line of expertise. So I'd tell you to keep your mind open. Anything that comes through, you go for it. Anything that comes through. If it's a full-time job that's asking you to be a secretary, I don't know, go try it. If it doesn't work, leave. You won't lose anything. Just try your hands in everything and you'll find, I think you'll find one place that will work. And hopefully even you find a job that's still in your expertise that will pay you way better and you'll be in a happier place. I'm really hoping all of that for you. But right now, I can't give you specifics on what can work. But just try your hands on everything. Any opportunity that comes your way, grab it. And I know this situation is really good in the sense that it develops your character so that you learn how to be opportunistic. You actually see opportunities where there's a gap. And also, you're very, in that sense of desperation, you're very quick to take up things. Unlike when you're a bit comfortable, you're just, let me see. Yeah. So I'm really wishing you all the best. You've done well for yourself this far. You will be fine. I promise. Someone else says, hello, Olive. Let me tell you a story of a woman who used to be our neighbor back in the day. This woman had 5 children with 3 different men. Everyone, including me, considered her a bad person because how can anyone have children with 2 different men, let alone 3? It's just bad, right? Clown face. Fast forward to 2016 when I met the love of my life and we moved in together. 2 years later, we welcomed our first bundle of joy. We later broke up and I went back home. Guess who gave me a shoulder to cry on? A male friend of mine, clown face. One thing led to another and boom, I'm pregnant. Guess who now has 2 kids with 2 different men? Yours faithfully, Magdalena. Her name is not Magdalena. I just went for that. Thinking about it, maybe our neighbor was not as bad as she was painted out to be. We just didn't understand the situations that might lead her to ending up with kids from 3 different men. And to imagine that those days people were not so informed about family planning and contraception, we shouldn't have judged. The levels women have been judged for doing literally anything is crazy. The normalization of shaming women for literally anything is wild. Like right now, I look back and I'm just like, why were women shamed for every damn thing? Because I'm thinking, let's say these men were abusive. She decided to leave. If at all she got pregnant and decided, I don't want children from a different man, if she aborted, would you have judged her any less? Would you? If at the time she was not, she was getting married to another man, that in itself is another problem. You left your marriage to go and engage with another man. That in itself was a problem on its own. And then with this man, you now do not have children. It's been 2 years, it's been 3 years you've been dating this person, you don't have children with them. Again, another point of shame. Like there was no right thing. There was no right way for a woman to exist. No right way for a woman to exist. And I'm so glad that now we are older, we're looking back and we realize that was just outrightly mean. We don't know what that was. We don't know who set up that system. And we were just basically... that's how we were indoctrinated. We were just indoctrinated into this system where we are supposed to judge any woman who's been involved with more than one man, any woman who's had children from more than one man, any woman who's... It's crazy. Things don't work out. People can go on. I was listening to the No Name podcast the other day, and Brian Banacho was saying the future of families, where he's seeing us going, the future of families will be blended families. Step brothers, step sisters will be a very normal thing in the future. So you better realize that people are now not normalizing struggle. People are thinking, if love isn't working, I will leave. We'll figure out how to raise our child. And that's how the future is going to be. The future is going to have multiple children who are raised healthily in blended families. It doesn't always have to be such a bad story. And Rose, I guess you are, and Magdalene, I guess you are pregnant now. Safe delivery, baby girl. I'm glad that you have learned this lesson. It's sad that it had to happen to you for you to extend that neighbor grace. But anyway, we are glad. Any lesson we are happy for it. I hope you have a safe delivery. I hope your family thrives. I hope your blended family thrives. If you're co-parenting, I hope it goes well. It stays healthy. You just thrive. All the best. Another response I got was a couple of lessons. So this person tells me, let me start off by acknowledging adulting is a scam. Haven't we said this throughout the episode? It's already a scam. I just know God and his angels be laughing at people making plans on what to achieve by 25. Don't even remind me. I'll be triggered and I will cry. Anyway, here is my list. Number 1, you can go to work every day and always be broke. Aki, I'm sorry, Mom, for questioning you when I was a child. Now I understand how just existing is expensive. Living hand to mouth is so real, especially if you are earning peanuts, have debt, and many responsibilities. You know, you don't even need to be earning peanuts. Honestly, we are living hand to mouth even for people who'd be considered middle class upper. You could be earning a good 100,000 shillings. You could be earning a good 250,000 Kenyan shillings, but somehow you're still living hand to mouth. The systems are crazy. The systems are crazy. And number 2, you say, ooh, Those good grades in high school and primary school don't mean shit out here. Imagine being the smartest kid doesn't guarantee success. Those kids who know how to express themselves and are street smart go further in life than bookworms who got straight A's. Also, just ban those drama and festival certificate. Okay. Number 2. Ooh-wee. Those good grades in high school and primary school don't mean shit out here. Imagine being the smartest kid doesn't guarantee success. Those kids who know how to express themselves and are street smart go further in life than bookworms who scored straight A's. Also, just ban those drama and music festival certificates. Lol, they won't make you stand out anyway. Oh my goodness. May teachers be forgiven for telling us you'll go somewhere and tell them you're a prefect and that will give you a better fighting chance at a job. Surely. Drama, music won't help. Straight A's in school, it will help if you're going into particular careers. But if you're just trying to survive, gosh, I don't know if you'll make it in the streets. And also there's something else you mentioned. Children who know how to express themselves, those were the ones who went farthest. And I can't stress enough for parents who are raising their kids right now. I think that's what I'm most proud of, that they're letting their kids express themselves. If your kids can speak confidently, they can be able to speak for themselves in spaces where they can be heard. So I think the idea of just raising very confident kids is honestly amazing to me. Someone else said, sorry. This is lesson number 3 for her. Religion was used to manipulate us as children into behaving a certain way. Because why were we threatened that we will burn in hell for just making little mistakes, which is human nature? Honestly, me and religion is a whole fight. It's literally a whole fight. But now we know better. It would be worse if you grew up, see what religion does, and still not question it. But I think it's a very beautiful space to be in, to actually acknowledge that this does not necessarily mean that everything we were taught is right. And I also have to make these decisions for myself independently. So yes. And then the 4th lesson you're saying is, the 4th thing you understand better now. Bitter pill to swallow, but unless you were born in a rich family, your chances of becoming rich are extremely limited. You expect to be in the same place with someone who had access to the best education, healthcare environment, and have a trust fund. You can hard work. Hard work can only get you so far in a capitalistic society. That is true. You can get rich, you can get wealthy, even if you're not coming from a rich or a wealthy background, but you also have to acknowledge that you will have to work probably 7 times, 10 times the energy you have to put in. Someone coming from like a better family, a financially stable family, the effort they're putting in to achieve that thing, you have to put in probably 10 times the effort to achieve the same thing. So it's a lot of hard work. The ground is not level and you'll just have to fight it out. And it's also good to acknowledge this because it really helps when it comes to comparison. A lot of us compare online. You're just looking at people and you're like, Nani is here now. Nani has done this. But do you consider the privileges that they have that have catapulted them into that space? And do you consider some of the privileges that you might have that have set you in a particular place where you look at others and you're thinking, why aren't they working as hard? Why aren't they achieving the things we're achieving? And we were in school with them together. So it helps you check your privilege, and it also helps you with that comparison that comes along with your peers when people start achieving things. Take your time. You're on your clock, you're on your lane. Just be patient. You'll be fine. Okay? That was the last response that I got. So I'm going to go into some personal ones that I particularly have just learned. Being an adult, I understand way better now. I hope I won't take a lot of time. But anyway, my first one is, this is so hella funny. Bribes have existed since time immemorial. And I want to. This was specific because when I get pulled up now, I know exactly. What's going to happen with a policeman. So if I get pulled up on the road, you just know you're in Kenya. But when we were kids growing up, my dad would get pulled up when, let's say, we were traveling home. My dad would get pulled up and then he'd leave the car, the driver's car seat, and go and meet the policeman at the back of the car and then come back. And I remember me and my sisters just thinking, oh, my dad is so good at negotiation. I wonder what he's told the policeman. Oh, my dad is so good at negotiations. Well, now that I've been pulled up a couple of times, I just realized, okay. I get it now. Sorry. My second one is our parents too don't have it figured out. And this one I learned in 2016 when my mom and my dad called me in. And they were concerned about a few things. They were concerned about my sister who was not in the country. They were concerned about also me, just basically how I'm moving and how things are happening. They were concerned about some of the things they've taught us that they see is not working for us now. Because one of the things was, I don't know, we were very secure. My mom, I don't know, my parents made sure we were very secure and guarded. So it's only when we are older and we're supposed to fight for spaces that they realized our kids are a bit timid. Our kids don't go for things. Our kids are not aggressive. Our kids don't ask for things because they're not used to asking people. We told them never to ask. So that's when my dad literally confessed, and in his actual words, even we didn't know that was a fault on our part. He actually said that. So it is at that point that it hit me, oh my goodness, these two are humans. And it is at that point that I keep saying, adulting is a scam because adulting does not exist. At 60, you will still be guessing. At 50, you will still be guessing. You'll still not have it all figured out. So yeah, something else I learned is that mainstream societal beliefs and practices are indoctrinations. Our relatives who didn't follow the set course were cast out and cast to doom. So why I'm thinking societal beliefs were sort of an indoctrination. It feels like a cult to me at this point because of the way I saw, and we've discussed it in a previous response, because of the way I saw women who didn't have children were treated. People who were old and were not married. Even this happened even for men. Like, men were literally shamed if you were in your 30s and you haven't brought a woman home. That was a whole thing. It was like, you'll even have an intervention just summed up for you. People who say, I remember my experience of moving out of my home into my own house. That in itself was a whole thing where I just realized, oh my goodness. We've still not... Like a woman moving, and I a lot of people told me, you only move from your father's house to your husband's house. Moving into your own house means you want to usher a shower, or a man wants to, or rather, I don't know, you're hiding a married man. There were crazy things that surrounded a woman being independent. So these are things you saw people getting shamed for, and you also participated in it. As a child, you were also like, Auntie Nani doesn't have Nini, a husband. It's because she can't keep a man. And you're out there, you're really believing in this shit. But now I'm older, I realize that society is like this cult, and it has a set of rules. And if you don't follow those rules, even if the path you're following is still healthy for you, if you do not follow these rules, society just feels really hurt and really mad at you, because society is this manipulative, narcissistic character. Society just feels mad at you and makes sure that you are shamed until you question your own sanity. So yeah, that's one thing I understood. It feels like indoctrination. It literally feels like a cult. I keep saying someone else. My fourth lesson was the church, especially organized denominations, guys, encourages classicism. I grew up, when I say organized denominations, I mean like the Catholic, PCA, AIC. I grew up in AIC. There's these churches that have existed since time. Leave the Pentecostals alone, the one that came, Sijui akina Mavuno. The churches that have existed for a while and have like a structured capitalist system, those churches really encourage classicism. And you'll see it even with the pastors, the branches they have, the type of congregants that come to that church. I as a child that just thought I couldn't fit in, because I feel like there were three groups. There were very rich people in our church. I went to a church where, hey, Kalenjin Tolas. I went to a church, we grew up in a church that was for the bigwigs. So there were very rich people, like I'm talking moguls, I'm talking people whose kids went to the United States and studied there. We never saw them again. I'm talking about people who millions was pocket change. So there was the very rich people. Then there was us, the middle class, who didn't feel like we lacked, but put next to the children of these tycoons, you're just like, yo, I am the poorest. And then there was now the actual people who came from disadvantaged backgrounds. And these were most of the times the charity cases, which now looking back, I realized was so dehumanizing for those families. I don't know. Yes, it's helping, but I feel the helping with, can we all come together and do this for Nani? They don't even have food. And this is an announcement made to hundreds of people. I'm just thinking, looking back now, it's sort of weird for me. So there was a lot of classicism. And at the time, I just thought, because I don't fit in any circles. I've always been an awkward person my whole life. So I don't fit in any circles. I just thought maybe it's because I'm awkward. But now looking back, I'm realizing there was an aspect of classicism that my small mind could probably not process at the time. But religion, classicism, capitalist system, leave it. It's another podcast episode. Another lesson I heard, our parents are shitty humans too. They really are. So, I mean this in the best way possible. Like the same way you do things that hurt other people, the same way you meet people who do weird things that hurt other people, our parents are not any different. They too are human. And our parents have had to do things in the name of God. Our parents have had to do things in the name of saving face. Our parents have had to do things in the name of choosing family. So your parents are not innocent as much. And there's also the aspect, there's this meme. That's why I laughed when I was reading this. There's this meme where someone, it's not even a meme, I think someone just tweeted and asked if everyone's mother is the son of the world, the beautiful soul, the heart so big. If everyone describes their mother like that, then who is that woman I've met at the reception of that office I'm from, who's just like has a dark heart and a bad attitude? Whose mother is that? So then you realize that, our parents too are not very innocent people. And I'll tell you some of the things that made me start questioning. My dad worked in banking, and now I have banking friends, friends who work in the bank. And sometimes you're talking to them, and they tell you stories of the things they do behind the scenes, and you're just like, is my father really innocent? Do you think this man was upright, that if God came today, he'd go to heaven? And then there are things like my mom has done a couple of things. She first had a tailoring shop, then she had a salon, and then she was a teacher. She's been a teacher her whole life. So I'm thinking, even my mom herself complains of how tailors are liars. So I'm thinking, when you were tailoring, were you also lying? When we say how much people in salons gossip, my mom had a salon. Even you complain of how much gossip there is in the salon. When you had a salon, were you gossiping? Okay? And then my mom is a teacher. If I told someone right now, that's literally a running meme in Kenya right now, where there's a sound on TikTok, oh, mwalimu wa math, tell me where this is because you said I wouldn't go far. well, tell me where this is. So we don't have the best things to say about our teachers. And I'm thinking, was my mom one of those good teachers? Because we did experience good teachers here and there. Was my mom one of those good teachers? Or was she the kind of person who someone is also seated somewhere just thinking, that teacher? Yeah. So at the end of the day, I don't think our parents are as innocent. And that's something I've only learned now. I look back and I realize they too are human. Another lesson is a patriarchal dynamics that even plays into favorite parent. Now, the patriarchy dynamics is in the sense that from the way our traditional or maybe our families were set up earlier, my dad would go to work the whole day and my mom would run the household. But now I'm realizing this played to my dad's favor because my dad was easily our favorite parent. If you asked us when we were told, who's your favorite parent? My father. But you can't fault someone who's not there. Who has to literally discipline you? Who spends the whole day with you? Your mother. And we realized how this was such an unfair ground for, say, my mother, because she had to do the actual discipline. She had to do the actual looking after. She had to do the actual running after, How does that compare to the person who you meet in the morning, they wash you, and they wash you nicely, you're happy, and then you meet them in the evening when they've come back with chocolate or queen cake, and then you meet them over the weekend when they take you somewhere to have a good time? How does that compare to this person who goes to school, looks at your grades, you've behaved badly, they need to punish you? Like, there's so much the primary parent is dealing with, and it just shifts the blame from one parent to another parent. Although right now I see a lot of balance, a lot of people are trying to balance it out, but I'm just wishing them the best. I'm not saying it's a wrong method. I'm just saying now I understand better. Looking back, I realize, okay, my mother had a lot to handle, and it might also explain some of the times when she lashed out. Because I'm thinking, even when I put out this prompt, I was saying, my mother has won so many hearts. And sometimes I'm thinking, at that point when she was lashing out, in those moments when she was lashing out, can you imagine me? I have a bad day when one colleague does something bad to me. But imagine this is a woman who probably, she went to school. The boss was shitty to her that day. She's a teacher. The students, the exams results are back. The mean score has dropped. So her track record is not looking good. This is already a bad day at work. This is a woman who leave work and go study because my dad really encouraged us to study. He really loves academics. So he put my mom back through school. He was like, you need to go back and get your degree. So my mom was studying at the time. You finish, you go to evening classes, you study. At this point, when you're a teacher and you're a student, you're also probably trying to get home and figure out how will the kids eat tonight? What is not there? What should I come with? At this point, you find the house help is also doing their own thing. You get home at night, one child has not showered, another one is running outside without a sweater. The medical bill, you don't even want to think about it. I'm just thinking, if she was going through all this, I would literally understand in moments when she'd snap. But at the time, you didn't understand it as a child. You were just like, why is my mom so mean? But now you look back and you're like, if all of that was also put on your shoulder, do you think you'd have handled? Yeah, so I think that has brought a lot of light to me. Someone else, I'll stop saying someone else. My fourth point was stable family structures are not as common as I thought it was. When I say stable family structures, when I moved to Nairobi and started making friends, that's the first time in my life, at the age of probably 23, that's the first time in my life I started hearing of, quite often, stepsister, half brother. Those were not vocabularies I had growing up. Maybe it's because of where I grew up. Probably the family structure was very, what is it called? One person, one woman, one man, maybe. But being in Nairobi is when I realized, oh my goodness, the nuclear family we were taught that father, mother, children, there could be extended children, and it's very, very common. So that's why I'm saying the future of families is blended families. I think it is. But it was just very new to me. I had never thought about it. I've always thought family is mother, father, children. If and I'd never thought of it in any other way. It was just literally that way. And then the only way a family is breaking up is if one person dies. That's the only way. But I never thought about it. I never thought about half sisters, half brothers. It's only moving to the city where I started talking to my friends and I'm realizing, oh, I don't have a half sister to talk about. I don't have a half brother to talk about. But then the episode on polygamy has been requested, highly requested. So that's an episode that will come. And I'll get people who've come from polygamous families to also talk about it. So it will come. I hope. And the last lesson, the older generations. And by the older generations, I mean even like early millennials. So they're probably in their late 30s, early 40s. Early millennials were literally plagued by traumas. And I realize that now. I acknowledge it. But there's also the aspect of, I know it's too late to save them, because it's very difficult to change someone's mentality at that age, yet their life has worked out. They think it's fine until where they are. So a lot of people are plagued with traumas, and that is grace that I extend to my parents a lot and people of the older generation. I literally, if I see them do something or if I see them reason in a certain way, I find myself holding back and just thinking, I understand where this is coming from. This is someone who dealt with colonialists. This is someone who was probably raised in a very, I don't know, it was not a very stable environment for them. This is someone who was literally beaten to a pulp because of a mistake. So they thought just beating a little is still okay for them. So it keeps evolving. It gets better. Where I think I have a problem with the older generations is that they refuse to acknowledge. They refuse to acknowledge this empathy, this perspective of empathy. I know what you did. I know what I did was wrong. No, I know what I did was because of this and that. But you refuse to acknowledge that what you did hurt me in some way. I'm just telling you, I don't need an apology. I don't need anything. I'm just telling you what you did hurt me. That's all you need to acknowledge. You need to acknowledge that what I did harmed you in a certain way. It wasn't my intention. I'm not saying that I intended to hurt you. I'm just saying acknowledge that it hurt the person you did it to. So that is something I think the older generations are really struggling with. A lot of times you'll be told, I think for me, the best example I can use is I usually tell my family that I find it very difficult to be around people because of how guarded and how much responsibility I was given as a child. And so right now I struggle with having people in my space, sharing things with people, like making friends, romantic relationships. I struggle with all these things because of the way I was given so much responsibility. But instead of telling me, instead of acknowledging and saying, oh, I understand how your way of life was affected by the way you were brought up. Okay, I get it now. Instead of that, you want to counter-argue that with, but you see, it made a good woman of you. You see, you are now a clean woman. You see, you're now a responsible girl. Yes, every coin has two sides. Every single coin has two sides. Whatever you think is good came with some bad. Whatever you think is bad came with some good. I'm just telling you, acknowledge the other side. No one is telling you to deny that a coin has two sides. No. Someone is just telling you, acknowledge that a coin can be turned and there is another side. That's all. I have learned so many things as an adult. I don't think it's enough to fit in an episode, but so far, I think those are the ones where I understand better now. Looking back, I'm just like, okay, I get where it's all coming from. And I think I generally just have an interest in understanding things more deeply than just getting to know that that's how things are. And I think I really, really love the space that I am in right now, where I try to understand. I might not condone what you're doing, but I will approach it from a point of empathy. And it's helped me even at work. I think her name is Inga Shen. She's a TikToker who helps with like corporate consultancy. And she said something. When you start understanding your people at work from their point of trauma, it's easier for you not to internalize their fault. So when someone hates you at work and they're your senior, you realize that it comes from a point of their insecurity and it's not something I've done. And that helps you get along with your day. Than when you actually internalize and think, what's my fault? Kwani, what have I done? And then start investigating and then start beating yourself. And then you see all that. If you just take your time to understand where this person is coming from, most of the time you'll realize if it's something malicious with malicious intent, most of the time you'll realize that this is someone who it comes from an insecurity they have. It has nothing to do with you. So I will challenge you to start approaching a lot of situations by gauging where this person comes from. Just approach everything with a perspective of empathy, and you'll find yourself not taking up a lot of fault. Because a lot of times we take up the fault and move because it's easier, but then it brings in a lot of self-doubt. So I'll just challenge you. Try and approach people's stories from their point of view. Just try to see it from their point of view. And even if after you've had them and their point of view still doesn't make sense, it's okay. Do not invalidate what they feel, because a lot of times you might feel something that the other person doesn't feel. Like when your mother is beating you up and she's saying, I'm beating the mistake, I'm not beating you. But in real sense, she's hurting you. And then your mother says, but you see, now you're disciplined. She refuses to acknowledge that you were hurt in the process. But yes, you are disciplined also. But that was not the right method, right? So at the end of the day, just learn to see people's perspectives from where they're coming from. It helps a lot. And we need a world that is kinder so that all of us are living better lives. Our quality of lives can improve. But if everyone is a suspect, everyone is someone that you want to fight with, everyone is someone who hates you, we can never have enough kindness to share. But with that said, that brings me to the end of this episode. Adulting is a scam. And until next week, please check out my Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube now, YouTube Shorts. I will be posting our prompt for the next week, and then you can contribute. And let's keep talking. But stay safe. Nairobians, keep warm. If you do not want children, keep warm by yourself. And until next week, when we'll be talking again, bye.